This audio is only intended to use for sleep purposes. Please don't drive or operate machinery while listening to it. Tonight, we paint stars with Vincent van Gogh. It's night in France. The wind outside stirs gently through the olive trees. The cobblestones, warmed by a day of sun, now radiate that heat slowly into the cool dusk air. Lanterns flicker in windows. Crickets have started their soft, rhythmic song. And just down a narrow street, paint streaked and uneven, a small yellow house sits quietly at the edge of the square. You've been walking toward it for some time now, drawn not by directions or duty, but by curiosity, the kind that hums like a low note in your chest, tugging you onward with the promise of something mysterious, something beautiful. You pause at the small wooden gate. There's paint on the hinges, blue. Prussian blue, you think, though you've never studied pigment. You run your finger across the flecks, marveling at the way they glint faintly in the moonlight. The garden smells like lavender and turpentine, like flowers and dreams. When you finally step through the gate, the front door opens, as if it's been waiting. There, in the threshold, stands Vincent. Not the myth, not the legend, but the man. Tired eyes, gentle smile, paint on his hands, his sleeves, even a little in his beard. He looks at you like he expected you, though no words pass between you. He simply nods, steps aside, and gestures for you to enter. The studio is warm. The walls are lined with canvases, some complete, some half finished, others just beginnings of sky and swaths of yellow fields. A kettle whistles quietly in the background. Vincent crosses the room and silences it, pouring you each a cup of something herbal and fragrant. You sit at a little wooden table. It's cluttered with paintbrushes, bits of paper, a few broken pencils, and a box of dried figs. He pushes the figs toward you and smiles again. They help with dreaming. Then he turns toward the easel. Tonight, he tells you, is a sky night. He doesn't say much beyond that, just hums a bit as he begins preparing his palette. Cobalt blue, ultramarine, ivory, black, a yellow that glows like lamp oil. His movements are gentle, meditative. You notice the care with which he squeezes the paint, as if each tube holds stardust. You sip your tea. The warmth spreads through you slowly. The air smells of oil and light. Outside the window, the stars are beginning to appear. First one, then two, then an entire sweep of constellations. Vincent glances outside, eyes gleaming. He walks over and opens the shutters, letting the light in. You can hear the wind again, but it sounds different now, softer, as though the world itself is exhaling. He begins to paint. It starts with darkness, broad strokes of blue across the canvas, thick and looping. Then, from that blue, he pulls stars, golden spirals, dots of fire, not perfectly shaped or symmetrical, but alive, each one vibrating with its own quiet intensity. He doesn't copy the sky. He speaks to it. As the brush moves, you feel the room shift. It's not dramatic at first, just a softening at the edges, a quieting of the clocks. But then it grows. The candlelight flickers in time with the brush. The walls seem to pulse with color. You blink slowly, and for a moment, you're not sure whether you're in the studio anymore or inside the painting itself. You close your eyes. When you open them, you're lying on your back in a field of cool grass. Above you, stars. Vincent's stars. Spirals and halos and great glowing orbs that shimmer as though breathing. The sky is velvet blue, threaded with silver and streaks of sapphire. You can see the brushstrokes in the clouds. The very air smells like paint and pine. And somewhere, close, but not alarming, you hear the sound of his humming again. The sky shimmers. You reach out and feel the cool night settle on your fingertips like dew. It isn't just sleep pulling you under. It's something more sacred than that. A kind of trust. A kind of letting go. Vincent kneels beside you in the grass. Eyes still turned skyward. People look at the stars too rarely, he says softly, as if talking to the sky more than to you. They forget they can. You nod, though your eyes are already closing again. The painting, the night, the hum of the brush. It all swirls together into something bigger than words, bigger than time. You drift, and somewhere above, the stars keep spinning. You wake slowly, not from sleep, but from something deeper. The grass beneath your body is soft and cool, like a woven blanket laid over the earth, just for you. The stars are still glowing overhead, and the air holds that same quiet magic, paint and pine and possibility. It takes a moment to remember where you are. But you don't panic. You simply breathe, the kind of breath that stretches all the way to your toes. Somewhere nearby, you hear the familiar scrape of a chair against a wooden floor. When you open your eyes, you're back in the yellow house, back in the studio. Vincent is exactly where he was, brush in hand, halfway through a new stroke. It's as if no time has passed, or perhaps too much has. You're not sure anymore, and you're not in a rush to figure it out. He glances at you with a warm, understanding smile. You drift it. You nod, unable to do much more. The warmth from the tea still lingers in your chest, and the night air dances gently through the open window. Vincent sets his brush down carefully. The bristles already stained with a new hue. Something softer now. Lavender, maybe, or mauve? He gestures for you to follow. You cross the room and trail him into a smaller studio at the back of the house. It's darker here, quieter, and smells more strongly of linseed oil. The windows are shuttered, and a single oil lamp casts golden shadows on the walls. This space feels different, like a secret place where stars aren't painted, but born. Laid out on a table are pages of color swatches, dozens of them, small squares torn from larger sheets, labeled in Vincent's delicate handwriting. You recognize some names: Sienna, Cerulean, but others are unfamiliar. Night milk, one says, another ash of joy, a third color of the wind just before thunder. These, Vincent says, are the ones I haven't shown anyone. The colors that don't exist yet. Not out here. He nods toward the world beyond the shuttered windows. But in here, he taps his chest. Then he hands one of the swatches to you. It's a deep, velvety blue, like twilight and velvet ribbon and secret ink all at once. The label reads, "The space between thoughts." You run your finger across the page, and it feels familiar, like a memory you can't quite catch. It pulls at something in you, not painfully, just enough to remind you that it's there. Vincent sits beside you, letting the silence stretch. Eventually, he speaks again, but softly. Most people think stars are just dots in the sky, but I think they're doorways, and every doorway needs a color. Not a color to paint, but a color to understand. He picks up another swatch. This one is gold, not shiny or brassy, more like the color of candlelight reflected in someone's eyes. This one, he says, is what I use when I miss someone I haven't met yet. You don't ask what he means. You don't need to. Instead, you help him sort through the rest of the swatches. Together, you arrange them into little constellations across the table. 3 blues and a yellow for hope when it's quiet. 2 greens and a pale gray for walking home alone but feeling loved. Each combination tells its own kind of story, not with words, but with warmth. Eventually, he pulls a small canvas from a shelf and sets it on the table. I've never painted with these before, he admits. Not all at once. But maybe tonight. He trails off, looking at you, not for permission, but partnership. So you nod, and he begins. The brush dips first into the space between thoughts. Blue. He lays it gently across the top of the canvas, dragging it into a soft curve. Then comes night, forming a swirl at the center. Then gold. Your gold, spiraling outward like a sun wrapped in memory. He moves like someone listening to music only he can hear. And you, for the first time, feel like you can hear it too. The studio fades again, not vanishing, just softening. And before you know it, You're back beneath the sky. But this time, it's not the star-filled from before. It's warmer, closer. The star, here, blinks slowly, as if aware of you. And one begins to fall. Not quickly, not like a wish, but slowly, gracefully, like a curtain being drawn back. You watch it drift downward, tracing a line of golden light across the deep velvet sky. When it lands, it doesn't disappear. It hovers just above the ground, pulsing softly. You reach toward it, but not to catch it, just to feel its warmth. It hums against your fingertips. And suddenly, you understand what Vincent meant about the stars being doorways. Because this one is opening. And inside is more sky. Deeper sky. A sky that stretches not just above you, but within you. You step into it, and it feels like floating, like forgiveness, like the color of a memory you didn't know you still held on to. And far off in the distance, you can hear a brush. Steady, patient, alive. You drift through the doorway the star created. It's like stepping into a painting, still being imagined. Each breath you take shapes the space around you. The sky here isn't a single color. It's layered. Transparent ribbons of cobalt and violet ripple with your every step. There's no ground beneath your feet, and yet you feel anchored, as if the air itself is holding you. Somewhere in this painted dream, you hear footsteps, soft ones, not hurried, not heavy, just enough to let you know you're not alone in this place between stars. And then, there he is again, Vincent. But this version of him is different. His shirt is open at the collar, sleeves rolled to the elbows, and his hat is tipped back on his head. He looks lighter, freer. He doesn't speak right away. He just smiles and points upward. You follow his gaze. Above you, flocks of birds are flying, not in lines or shapes, but in spirals, spirals of color, as if they're painting the sky as they move. Their wings leave trails behind them, amber and rose, teal and emerald, curving around invisible stars. And with each loop, the sky becomes more alive. Vincent reaches into his coat pocket and pulls out a small notebook. He flips through it carefully and finds a blank page. Then, with a pencil so short it barely peeks from his fingers, he begins to sketch. Not the birds, but the motion of birds, the essence. His hand moves in swift, arcing lines. You peek over his shoulder and watch as the page fills with life. I used to think the wind had no color, he says, not looking up, but I was wrong. The wind just borrows its color from what it touches. You stand with him in the open sky as he finishes the sketch. Then he tears the page out and hands it to you. Hold this. You take it carefully. The paper shimmers in your hands. And just like that, the drawing lifts off the page. Literally. The lines peel away from the surface and become strands of light, winding upward to join the birds. The sketch was never meant to stay flat. It was always meant to fly. Rain on warm stone. The sounds here are gentle. Birdsong, the hush of petals opening, the brush of pencil against paper. And then softly, Vincent begins to hum again. Not a tune you know, just a soft lullaby of someone lost in thought. You close your eyes and let the hum carry you. Around you, the sky deepens. The birds finish their flight. The colors melt gently into one another, like dreams folding into dreams. You are still holding the sketch. You are still lying in a field that floats in a sky born of brush strokes and sighs. And far away, but close enough for comfort, Vincent paints. You open your eyes slowly. The metal fades like the last lines of a poem, gently dissolving until the flowers become brushstrokes again and the sky folds back into canvas. But you are not lost. You're simply somewhere new, somewhere waiting. You stand in a hallway, narrow and glowing with a pale golden light. The walls are covered with paintings, not framed, just tacked up with corners curling gently outward, as if they're breathing. Each painting pulses faintly with a light from within. You glance at the first, a narrow alley bathed in sunset, 2 chairs waiting side by side. The second, a bowl of pears under a window, the light pooling across them like syrup. The third, a portrait, but not Vincent. This one is of a woman with her eyes closed and a streak of blue across her cheek, like a tear or a comet. Vincent appears beside you, quieter now, reverent. This is the room of lost light, he explains softly. It's where I keep all the things I couldn't finish or couldn't explain. He gestures toward the wall. These paintings don't need to be seen to be real. They just needed to exist somewhere, even if only for me. You nod. There's something deeply human in that. A place for all the almosts, the maybes, the not quite readies. He leads you further down the hall, to a door with a single star carved into the wood. When he opens it, you're inside a room that feels suspended between sleep and memory. The walls are a soft twilight blue. Shelves line the perimeter, filled with tiny glass bottles, each one glowing faintly with a different hue. Vincent moves to the shelf and pulls one down. He holds it to the light. This is the color of a morning I once dreamed, but never lived. He hands it to you. It glows peach and gold, warm, like sunlight through eyelids. You hold it carefully, feeling its quiet hum. He selects another. This one's the color of a letter I wrote, but never sent. This one is a pale lavender, soft and wistful. The cork is tied with a thread. You walk slowly around the room together, touching nothing, just absorbing. There's a bottle labeled "The Last Good Laugh," a shade of green that crackles with energy. Another says, "The silence between 2 old friends who understand." A deep, rounding, blue-gray. You ask, why keep them? Vincent smiles, a little sadly, because they matter, even if no one else ever sees them, even if they're forgotten in waking life. Here, they are safe. You sit on the floor, back against the wall, and Vincent does the same. For a long time, there is silence. Not awkward, not lonely, just shared stillness, the kind that needs no apology. One of the little bottles nearby flickers gently, casting soft light on the floor between you. You watch it as your eyelids begin to lower, lulled by the gentle waves of color. And then, without warning, he speaks again, quietly, kindly. There's light in you too. Some of it you have never named. Some of it you forgot you had. But it's there. You blink slowly, and if you ever want to leave some of that light here, in this room, he continues, you can. He offers you a blank bottle. It's simple, delicate, empty. What will you call it? He asks. You think for a moment. Maybe it's the feeling of being seen. Maybe it's the first time you didn't pretend you were okay. Maybe it's just this. You hold the bottle in your hands and close your eyes. It begins to glow. Softly, warmly, like a light that knows its way home. Vincent doesn't speak. He just watches, nodding slowly, eyes gentle. And when you place the bottle on the shelf, among all the others, it fits perfectly, like it was always meant to be here. You breathe in, you breathe out, and the room glows a little brighter. The door closes gently behind you as you leave the room of lost light. Vincent walks ahead, his steps slow and unhurried. You follow without speaking, the hush of the studio soft around you. Every part of this house seems alive, not in a haunted way, but in a thoughtful one. The walls remember, the floor hums. Even the air carries a kind of weightless meaning, like music you can almost hear. You descend a narrow staircase, and at the bottom, the world tilts again. This isn't a basement, it's something else. The floor is rippling, not metaphorically, truly, softly rippling, like the surface of a lake holding the memory of wind. The walls curve inward, glowing softly, tinted in cool blues and greens. You take a step, and the floor doesn't sink. It supports you, like water that knows your name. Vincent turns. We're under the sea now, he says, or under the sky. Sometimes they're the same. He gestures outward. All around you, glass domes rise like bubbles. Inside each one is a fragment of sky, like jars of weather. One holds a thunderstorm mid-growl, purple lightning frozen in mid-fork. Another holds a sleepy sunset with a single bird coasting across it. A third contains only fog, thick and rolling, beautiful in its mystery. These, Vincent says, are skies I painted in my mind. I stored them here until I had the courage to let them out. He places his palms on one of the domes. The glass melts away like dew, and suddenly you're standing on the edge of a dock at night. The sky above is clouded, but the stars are reflected perfectly in the still sea. It's a mirror, a secret, a song. You sit at the edge of the dock and trail your fingers into the water. It doesn't feel like water. It feels like velvet. It feels like ink. It feels like 1,000 stories waiting to be told. Vincent sits beside you, his feet dangling above the surface. I used to think stars belonged only to the sky, he says, but I found them in the river, in the eyes of strangers, in cups of tea. Stars are just reminders of what shines even in darkness. A breeze moves across the mirrored water, and the stars ripple gently. One of them breaks away from the rest, floats upward like a firefly, then lands softly on your shoulder. It doesn't burn. It pulses, then sinks into your skin like warmth made visible. You exhale, and the night exhales with you. The dock begins to dissolve beneath you, not urgently, not threatening, just slowly, like paper drifting into steam. And you're floating again, not in sea or sky, but in something between. Vincent is still beside you. You drift together, past floating sketches, loose pages of clouds and birds and rooftops, past little boats folded from blue linen, each one carrying a tiny candle. You pass a window suspended in midair, showing a little bedroom with a sunflower on the windowsill. You pass a swirling tunnel of color labeled Dreams I Forgot and Then Remembered Later. Eventually, you settle. You land on the curved back of a sleeping whale made entirely of constellations. Its breath rises in glowing steam from its blowhole, and Vincent leans back against one of the starry fins like it's the most natural thing in the world. You do the same. The whale begins to drift again, slow, rhythmic, peaceful. Its body moves through the sea of sky with ancient grace, and above you, new stars begin to appear, stars you've never seen before. Some are jagged, like question marks. Others are soft, like the inside of a seashell. Each one whispers something wordless. And in that moment, floating through this painted sea, you feel entirely safe, entirely allowed, entirely real. Vincent hums again. This time, the whale hums with him, and your breath matches theirs. The stars are singing, not with voices exactly, but with color, with movement, with the way the air around them seems to shimmer in waves. The whale, steady and massive beneath you, breathes out one final glowing sigh before it vanishes into the painted sea, dissolving into constellations that drift up, up, and away. You land softly, this time not on grass or waves, but on tile, warm, sun-baked tile, patterned in looping spirals and golden suns. The air here is thick with the smell of citrus and dust and memory. Vincent is already ahead of you, pushing open a tall wooden door set into the side of a cliff. Inside, a studio, unlike the others. It's round, with no corners. The walls are lined with windows, but none look out onto the same world. One shows a storm over a wheat field, Another shows a rain-soaked alley glowing with lamplight. A third flickers between dusk and dawn in real time, caught in its own quiet cycle. At the center of the room stands a clock, but not one you've ever seen. Its face is a blank canvas. Its hands are paintbrushes, and every hour is marked by a different hue. Midnight is deep indigo. 3 a.m. is fog, silver. Noon is honey, bright. And 6 o'clock, both morning and evening, are the colors of longing. This clock doesn't keep time, Vincent explains, stepping closer. It paints it. You watch as the minute hand glides forward and leaves behind a trail of soft pink. The pink drips slowly down the canvas, blending with the earlier blues and oranges, creating a swirl of new color. Not 1 second is wasted. Every tick leaves something behind. Vincent dips a fingertip in the color at the clock's edge and holds it up to you. This one is yours, he says. It's a shade you've never seen before. You reach out and touch it. It's warm and cool, all at once, soft and electric. A color you feel before you see it. Every person brings a different hue, even when they don't know they're painting. You walk slowly around the room. There are canvases stacked everywhere, leaning against walls, tucked into corners, rolled gently in ribbon. Some are landscapes, some are portraits, some are just color, broad, abstract, layered in thick strokes, like emotions you haven't named yet. Vincent pulls one from the pile. It's a painting of a chair. Just a chair. Simple, wooden, worn. I painted this when I felt most alone, he says softly, not because the chair meant something, but because I needed something that stayed. You sit on the rail version of the chair, tucked in the corner. It creaks gently beneath you. It does stay. Vincent sits on the floor beside you. He looks up at the spinning clock. The hands keep moving. The colors keep layering. Nothing repeats. That's the thing about time, he says. It never comes back. But it does leave traces. Always. You watch the paint drip. Each second a color. Each moment a brush stroke. And then he hands you a brush. He doesn't tell you what to paint. He doesn't need to. You kneel beside him and dip the brush into the present moment. It comes out glowing, a soft green, the exact color of peace after a storm. You drag it gently across the canvas face of the clock. The brushstroke settles between pink and silver, shimmering, and suddenly it belongs. This is what time feels like, he whispers. You nod. Then you lie back on the floor, eyes fixed on the spinning, swirling painting above you. The hands keep ticking forward, but you don't feel rushed. You feel part of it, part of the turning, part of the color. Sleep moves over you like another brushstroke, soft, blending everything together. And as your eyes begin to close, you hear Vincent again. Not next to you this time, but everywhere, in the spinning of the clock, in the shifting of the windows, in the drip of each painted second. Every moment matters, he says, and you believe him. When you wake, it's to the scent of blooming things, not the bright, showy perfume of midday flowers, but the tender green hush of things that only open in darkness. Moonflowers, evening primrose, night blooming jasmine. The air is thick with their quiet courage. You're lying on a quilt, hands stitched, faded with love, patterned with swirling yellows and soft blue sunbursts. Vincent sits nearby, cross-legged in the grass, sketching by the glow of a lantern. His sleeves are rolled up, and there's a smudge of dirt on his cheek. You sit up slowly. The garden surrounds you like a cradle. It's a walled space, stone and ivy and stars peeking over the top. The flowers here are unlike any you've seen. Some shimmer faintly. Some seem to hum when the wind moves through them. One, the color of rust and twilight, bends slightly in your direction, as if it recognizes you. Vincent looks up and smiles. They bloom for those who see them, even if you've never seen them before. You walk with him through the garden paths, barefoot. The grass is cool and dewy, and the earth beneath feels steady. The paths twist gently, always leading you somewhere you didn't expect, but always somewhere right. You pass a trellis hung with glowing vines. You pass a sundial that casts shadows in moonlight. You pass a bench where someone once left a journal, its pages fluttering gently, even though there is no wind. This garden only grows at night, Vincent explains, as you pause beside a cluster of silver poppies. It listens to dreams and doubt and the things people carry quietly. He gestures to a tree whose leaves look like old letters, faded ink, torn edges, folded corners. Everything matters here, even what you never said. You reach out and touch one of the lettered leaves. It feels like memory. It feels like truth. Not dramatic truth, not painful truth, just something simple and honest you'd nearly forgotten. Farther along the path, you come to a small pond. The surface is still, glassy. Instead of reflecting the garden, it reflects moments. You kneel beside it and see something flicker. A day you felt brave. A moment you chose kindness. A night you sat quietly with your own sadness and didn't turn away. These are the things the world doesn't always see, Vincent says gently. The garden sees them. It keeps them, honors them. He hands you a seed. It's tiny, no bigger than a freckle, a soft green, warm to the touch seed. Plant it, he says. Plant it with a thought, not a wish, not a goal, just a truth. You close your fingers around the seed and think, maybe I am still becoming. Maybe I want to feel safe. Maybe I am not a burden. You press the seed into the soil. The earth accepts it. No fanfare, no magic, just a soft, living stillness. And then, slowly, a sprout appears. It grows not up, but outward, unfolding leaves that curl like whispered words. Within seconds, it blooms. A deep blue flower with a heart of gold, shaped like something between a flame and a breath. Vincent doesn't say anything. He doesn't need to. You sit beside your blooming truth as night deepens. The stars above begin to drift lower, not falling, just reaching, until the whole garden is lit by them. Each plant casts soft shadows, and the path glows with the soft pulse of belonging. You lie back on the quilt again. The night is cool, the earth is kind. The garden leans in a little closer, like it's listening for your dreams. And Vincent hums, not a tune of longing this time, but of arrival, of something found. You drift into sleep beneath the flower you grew yourself, and the garden grows quietly beside you. You wake to paper. It rustles softly around you, like leaves in autumn. Thin sheets, thick pages, parchment, scraps, and curled corners stretch out in every direction, each one carrying ink, handwriting, watercolor margins, postmarks from nowhere and everywhere. You sit up slowly. You're in a field of letters. They're not messy. They're carefully placed, blanketing the earth like snow made of memory. Some are folded, some are sealed with wax, some are open, revealing words you almost recognize, phrases you feel more than understand. Vincent stands a little ways off, holding a letter of his own. His eyes scan the page like he's reading something he wrote long ago, not with regret, but with tenderness. He looks up when he notices you stirring and waves you over. "This is where I keep the letters I never sent," he says, "and the ones I didn't know how to start." You look around. A nearby envelope is addressed simply, "To the feeling I couldn't name." Another, "To the version of myself I was too tired to become." A third flutters open at your feet and reads only, "I forgive you." You crouch and gently lift it. The ink is smudged, like it was written in rain or tears. You fold it and tuck it into your pocket. "It's okay to carry them," Vincent says gently, already knowing. "That's what they're there for." He leads you deeper into the field, where the letters grow fewer and the sky grows brighter. There, on a smooth stone table, sits a stack of fresh paper. Beside it, a quill, and beyond that, the moon. Not a distant thing in the sky, but close, enormous, hovering just beyond a low stone arch. Its surface glows a gentle white gold, cratered and luminous. It doesn't shine, it listens. "This is the letter moon," Vincent says. "It receives without judgment, without reply, only presence." He picks up a piece of paper and begins to write. You do too. At first, your hand hesitates. What do you write to something that asks nothing of you? But slowly, the words come. Not sentences, even, just truths, soft ones, scattered. "I tried today. I felt alone, and I kept going. I remembered the sound of laughter and missed it. I want to be gentler with myself. I'm afraid, and I don't want to be. I'm still here." You finish, and without folding it, you carry the page to the arch. The moon draws closer. You hold out the letter, and a breeze rises, not cold, not forceful, just enough to lift the paper from your fingers. It floats upward slowly, then disappears into the moon's glow. Nothing happens. And yet, everything does. Your chest feels softer, like something heavy inside you has exhaled, not vanished, but softened, seen. Vincent joins you at the arch. He points upward, where other letters are still drifting skyward, each one trailing a thread of golden light behind it. There are thousands, millions, some glowing, some barely visible, but all rising, all heard. They don't need answers, he says. Just space. You watch the letters disappear into the night sky. Then you walk with him back through the letter field. The pages rustle gently as you pass. Some whisper, some glow faintly, but none ask you to stop. None ask you to explain. Back at the edge of the field, a single letter flutters into your hand. It's not addressed. You open it. Inside, written in your own handwriting, are the words, "You're allowed to rest." You hold it to your chest. Vincent doesn't speak, but his presence is enough. You lie back on the soft ground, the letters cradling you like feathers, like petals, like permission. And above you, the moon waits, still glowing, still whispering. You wake to the sound of birds, not loud, not urgent, just a soft fluttering above the windowsill. You're in a sunlit room now. The walls are painted butter yellow. The bed is small, but warm. Its quilts stitched with star patterns. There's a single wooden chair beneath the window, and on the floor nearby, a pair of paint-splattered shoes. One of them is still damp, with cobalt blue. This is Vincent's room. Not a dream version, not a symbolic one, just the real, quiet space where he lived and breathed and rested. The brushstrokes of his life linger here, even in silence. The window is open. You rise and stand before it. Outside, the day is beginning. Not dramatically, not in brilliance, just gently. The sky is a pale blue. The town is still asleep. A cat stretches on a rooftop. A baker lights his ovens. The world turns in slow, forgiving circles. Vincent appears behind you, quiet as ever. "I like mornings best," he says softly, "when nothing is finished yet." You sit together on the windowsill. He places a little box between you, handmade, wooden, the size of a pocketbook. Inside, a set of miniature paintings, tiny windows. Each one is a memory. Not yours, not his, just memories that float freely, unattached, and gentle. One shows a pair of hands holding a steaming mug, sunlight glowing through the steam. Another, a dog asleep in the curve of someone's legs. Another still, a person standing in the rain, smiling up, eyes closed. They're pieces of peace, Vincent says. Borrowed, shared, offered. He lets you hold one. It's warm. You look into it, and it doesn't tell a story. It reminds you of one. Something soft. Something still alive inside you. You carry it with you as he guides you through the house once more. This time, every door opens. The studio, the staircase, the gardens, the painted clocks, the sky beneath the sea. You pass through them all, but now they feel different, clearer, less dream, more memory, less magic, more meaning. Every space you visited leaves a color on your hands. You glance down and see smudges. Violet from the letter field, gold from the garden, silver from the clock, blue from the sea, and now yellow, Vincent's yellow. The yellow of sunlight and sunflowers and second chances. You return at last to the front room. The easel is still there, but now a new canvas waits, blank. Vincent gestures toward it. I've shown you my world, he says. Now it's yours. You hesitate, not out of fear, just reverence. The canvas is quiet, patient. It doesn't rush you. Vincent places a brush in your hand. The bristles are soft, the handle warm, the weight familiar. You don't think. You paint. Not with technique, not with plans, just with feeling. The brush moves like a memory, a sigh, a truth. And slowly the canvas begins to glow. Not from the paint, but from the presence, from the permission. You paint stars. You paint sky. You paint the letter you wrote, and the flower you grew, and the whale that carried you, and the garden that knew your name. And then finally, you paint the window, not looking outward, looking in. Vincent watches silently. When you're done, he doesn't clap or critique. He simply steps forward, takes your hand, and presses it to your heart. That color, he whispers, was always in you. You look again at the canvas. It pulses. The canvas still glows. It hums faintly in the light. Not finished, but full. Full of everything you've carried, everything you've seen, everything you allowed yourself to feel. The brush is still in your hand, but your work is done. Not because there's no more to paint, but because tonight you've said what needed saying. Vincent stands beside you, quiet and steady. There's no rush now. No need to capture the moment or explain it. Just being here is enough. You both sit, cross-legged on the studio floor. Your painting between you, like a shared breath. The windows are open, and the night outside has returned, deep and full of stars. The wind carries lavender and lantern smoke. Somewhere, a bell chimes the hour, but it doesn't interrupt the stillness. It joins it. You've done something beautiful, Vincent says softly, not because it's perfect, but because it's true. He picks up a candle and lights it with a match. The flame flickers gold and soft blue, casting shadows that move like brushstrokes across the walls. And then slowly, the studio begins to shift again. Not to another world, not to another dream, but to something that feels like home. The walls melt into sky, the ceiling fades into stars. And you are no longer inside the house. You are inside the painting. Your painting. The one you just created. The colors wrap around you like silk. The shapes move gently, alive with emotion. The stars you painted now twinkle overhead, brighter and closer than ever before. One of them begins to drift downward. It floats towards you, gentle and glowing, and rests in your open palm. It doesn't burn. It beats, like a quiet heart, like a memory returned, like a promise whispered in light. Vincent leans close. This is yours, he says, to carry back. Not to explain, not to prove, just to keep. You hold it to your chest, and it sinks inward, resting in the space between your ribs. Warm, bright, still. All around you, the painted world begins to fold gently, like the closing of a book, the final curve of a brushstroke. The studio returns. The chair, the kettle, the smell of paint and lavender, and something like forgiveness. You sit once more on the soft chair beside the easel. Vincent begins to pack his paints. He hums as he works, a low, thoughtful melody. You listen with your whole body. Your eyes close. Not from weariness, but from peace. He speaks once more, barely above a whisper. You don't have to hold it all, he says. You just have to keep showing up. That's the art. You breathe in. You breathe out. And for the first time in what feels like forever, your breath feels easy, gentle, real. The stars outside blink slowly. The house grows quiet. You, still holding the color of your own truth, drift into sleep. Not escape, not silence, just rest. Full and forgiving. And somewhere, always, Vincent paints. The brush moves, the stars remember, and the night keeps you safe. You're allowed to take up space fully. You deserve the same kindness you give to everyone else. Till next time, be good to yourself. Even the stars are rooting for your rest. Good night. This audio is intended only for sleep purposes. Please don't drive or operate heavy machinery while listening to this audio.